Good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, hi, Sushant. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, folks, today we will be discussing some general things about the healthcare system that has been actually helping us get rid of a lot of infectious diseases. But when it comes to problems like chronic diseases, one might actually discover that the more we spend on the healthcare system in terms of managing our symptoms, it gets worse. And there's no end to these things. So, Sushant, I think let us begin this discussion by shedding some light on how the system is actually working here and what are the problems that the system has. The whole system has encountered a lot of problems over the years, right? When it started from, discovery of vaccines and the discovery of medicines and
Mm.
then antibiotics, right? So I think we have seen a lot of transition from 50s to, this to this day. So what is your view here?
So again, it goes down to how our healthcare system has been developed, right? So we all know that, as you rightly said, it is the best system what we have when it comes to infection, right? We have an infectious disease, we have a surgery, or we have some trauma. The best we have, but when it comes to chronic disease, it was never designed to solve chronic disease, right? So we have seen human rights from the way the medical education has been built, it is based on specialization, right? So we have diabetologists, we have cardiologists, we have oncologists, we have gastroenterologists, we have nephrologists, right? These all are specialties, and the more specialties we have, more our health is deteriorating, right? Because the basic is most of these healthcare practitioners or healthcare solutions, what we are now seeing for last 3 to 4 years since the time we started, right? We have seen a lot of these companies claiming to reverse number of diseases, but mostly 99%, 9% are aims towards diabetes, right? But what they follow is what we call is reductionist biology approach. So every organ is treated separately. So it assumes that every organ itself is a body, human body, and it treats every organ separately. So someone who has diabetes would be treated separately. Someone who has cardiovascular disease would be treated separately. Someone who has chronic kidney disease treated separately, right? So essentially, but I'm just giving you a discuss about the trilogy. So again, it is all connected. So people who have type 2 diabetes have chronic kidney disease and cardiovascular disease and vice versa, right? So this is something which we do not understand, and basics goes to the uh, important thing what we go to system biology, right? So all chronic disease is system biology problem, right? So what I mean by system biology is everything is connected inside our body, and it's not about treating and giving a synthetic compound to inhibit a biochemical function inside the body. That's what the drugs do. So drug is obviously a synthetic compound which we try to suppress a particular biochemical function or promote a particular biochemical function, right? To just with the focus of suppressing or managing a symptom. And when we take that, there's obviously a side effects for these synthetic compounds. We have three more symptoms and we have more drugs, and what is next happens is the vicious cycle of drug and symptom management. Right? So basically, system biology approach starts. So let us get to the basic, right? So essentially, how human body is formed. So we have a single cell DNA zygote, which again, how we are born, right? So during the birth, the child goes to birth canal. Child absorbs the mother's microbiome. Again, for people who do not understand, microbiome is a is a collection of various microbes living in different parts of the body, right? And the genes they express, right? So the child, while passing through birth canal, consumes the bacteria living in the mother's gut and mother's vagina, right? That is how the seeding process, what is called the seeding process, right? And after the birth, the through breast milk, the child gets certain flow of bacteria from mother's breast, from mother's microbiome to the child, and that's how the microbiome develops. And the biggest flaw is, we generally think that microbacteria are bad and they need to be killed, and that's the biggest reason why we are suffering from chronic diseases, right? So again, when it comes, microbes enter, your body. It helps develop brain. It helps develop immune system. It helps immune cells differentiate between friend and foe. So probably, in simple words, if in the basic communication between our immune system and microbiome holds like this, here probably, this something has been created by nature, and uh, we have to keep this thing healthy, right? So we are team. You don't need to be paranoid. You don't need to act, do inflammation to kill us, because we are a part of same family, and that's how. And we will help you differentiate between good things and bad things, right? We'll tell you when to do inflammation, when to not, right? So that is the reason. If we are taking care of our microbiome, which by the way holds accounts for 99% of our biology, right? And these interaction between the microbiome and immune system drives our biology for health and disease, right? So this is one basic aspect. Other is, when we talk of system biology approach, we have to focus on genes expression. So I've seen a lot of people talking about DNA, right? But just to let everyone know, DNA is static, right? There are certain genes mutation which happens at the time of cell division process, which we call as uh, some mutation do repair, some survive, and those who survive is what we call as rare genetic disorders, because they are rare. They are not lifestyle diseases, right? So, so essentially, your DNA, for let's take example of two body organs like brain and liver or heart, right? DNA for all body organs is the same, right? So essentially, every cell, whether it is a liver cell, heart cell, or brain cell, have potential to become any of those organs, but it doesn't know what organ it is and what function it performs, right? So essentially, you know, brain performs vastly different function from liver, from heart, right? So essentially, everything have the same DNA, right? DNA is static. DNA is just an something, an element moving inside your genes, inside your cells, right? So what we really need to understand is that how brain is different from liver, how liver is different from heart, is the genes expressed, right? So essentially, uh, your DNA is static when there's an external trigger, whether it is environmental factors, the food you eat, the stress you take. It triggers a particular biochemical reaction. It leads to DNA gets copied into RNA. RNA, it's what activates the DNA, and RNA translates into protein, which carries the function of the genes, right? So essentially, it is the external trigger which changes the expression of the genes, right? So here, system biology means, the genes, there are three genes expression, human genes expression, right? So human genes account for around 1% total genes what we have inside the body, right? Then we have mitochondrial genes. So mitochondria, which sets inside our human cells, right? We know mitochondria is an ancient organism. It is, we know, it is one of these organism which produces energy with gives of ATP, right? And mitochondrial dysfunction is linked to virtually every single disease. Then the third and most important is the microbial genes expression. So we have microbes being in our mouth, in our gut, in our intestine, in our hair, skin, everywhere, right? So essentially, we have these three genes expression defines a system biology. So how what microbes are doing impact your human genes, and what inflammatory markers it is expressed, how microbial genes and mitochondrial genes are tied to each other, how mitochondrial genes impact your cellular response. So this is a lot of biochemistry going on, right? So to understand really, you know uh, the human biology, or to prevent diseases, we have to focus on the system biology approach, right? It
I
is,
think
yeah.
I totally resonate with you here because what happens when you mention about biochemistry here, so what we often get to see is that the food we eat is fueling our body somehow. right? But when it comes to biochemistry of the body, why is it that they're not measuring the biochemistry of the body versus the biochemistry of the food we eat? Because I feel this is really important, and this is where we are also working in terms of system biology. So what are your thoughts on
See,
that?
it's very complex, and the point is, everyone is they do not have an incentive to keep people healthy, right? And most of the interventions, so if you see, any disease, whether it is diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, cancer, depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever it is, right? They develop at least 2 decades before symptoms show up, right? So most of the solution focus on tracking these symptoms, right? So symptoms would show up out of the blood work, right? What you do your diagnostic test, you have some symptoms, and then you try to manage them, right? So essentially, these symptoms is an outcome of years of systemic inflammation going on inside the body, right? So inflammation is obviously the interaction between the food, the molecular ingredients or substrates in the food with your microbial genes expression, with your human genes expression, with your mitochondrial genes expression, right? So in simple words, what happens is when you eat a food, for instance, suppose you eat a broccoli, right? So there are hundreds of uh, biochemical compounds hitting your microbiome. Your microbiome sends a food, it expresses a particular gene, right? And they metabolize and synthesize each of these compounds into certain byproducts. Why do they do that? What is the fun of doing that is when they do it, they extract chemical energy that supports their growth. And when they extract, they produce a byproduct which either makes your immune system overactive, trigger inflammation, which overactivates certain human genes, which lead to activation of certain inflammatory biomarkers such as IL-6, IL-8, TNF-alpha, a lot of these things. Or it gives us nutrients like vitamins and minerals and a lot of these things. So essentially, it is important not only to understand the biochemistry, human biochemistry, the microbial biochemistry, the mitochondrial biochemistry, but also how the food interacts with your microbiome, right? So it is not only about a linear formula. Okay, you are consuming something, your microbiome will metabolize. Sometimes your microbiome metabolize it, it produces a byproduct, which again is a food for another microbiome, right? And then again, it further produces byproduct, which is a food for your body, right? So essentially, it is not that easy to understand. It needs a lot of research around it, and that's why the the solutions what we have are not even a 1 inch close to your the healthcare issues. They are still just an replication of the current disease management model what we have right now, right? So so essentially, for instance, let me take an example, right? So people who are tracking type 2 diabetes, right? They're tracking you're using CGM to track your blood glucose responses, right? But that doesn't solve the type 2 diabetes because ultimately whatever happens, whether a particular food is spiking your blood sugar or not depends upon the inflammatory response, right? So even if the inflammatory response is low, if your cellular activity is not activating or the cellular signaling is not activating GLUT4, which is a protein which goes to the cell membrane, bind to glucose and clear it from the circulation. So probably it doesn't matter whether you're tracking CGM or not, right? You need to know whether your GLUT4 is being activated or not, right? So again, there's a lot of cellular signaling biochemical reactions happening, right? And again, this could impact, we know that high blood sugar level could impact your kidney function, damage your kidney blood vessels, and then you have chronic kidney disease, or vice versa. You know, if you have oxidative stress, if you're taking a lot of uremic toxins, you have oxidative stress because mitochondria, there are a lot of mitochondria in the kidney cells, right? And again, that is required to clear all these solutes and all these harmful toxins, right? So oxidative stress for the we discussed this oxidative stress for the oxidized tetrahydrobiopterin, which is a cofactor for producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the signals which activates GLUT4. So essentially, so people who have chronic kidney disease could lead to type 2 diabetes or cardiovascular disease also, right? Similarly, just tracking you have hypertension, it may tell you you have a risk of chronic kidney disease, but it doesn't tell you what is causing you chronic kidney disease, right? It just tells you have a risk, right? You may or may not have, right? But thing is, that's why the hypertension is one of those symptoms of chronic inflammation, and there are thousands of biochemical reactions which would trigger inflammatory activities. Essentially, you can't just measure a C reactive protein, tell I have inflammation, so I will do this, I will avoid this food, I will avoid that food. You need to understand specific pathways. So pathways is nothing but combination of various biochemical activities and functions. There is a specific pathway which is triggering inflammation, either which is stimulating pro-inflammatory activities or anti-inflammatory activities, right? So there's a deep-rooted need of understanding these things. Obviously, I've not seen anyone actually focusing on that. So yeah, this is something what we are trying to build, right? And it's we all know it is uh, difficult because they've seen customer हो गया oh एक महीना हो गया कुछ हुआ नहीं there's not working so probably something busy to develop over 20 years you can't expect things to get neutralized or your body come into homeostasis in a 1 month or 2 month duration right so it
I
takes
agree
time.
with this because it takes time. Your body has gone into a certain state because of your choices of the lifestyle. And now, if you expect some miracles to work, that is not going to happen. Not even if you take antibiotics, that is still not going to happen because it might suppress something, but then it can induce something else, right? So
Hmm.
I think that
Hmm.
is where. So, Sushant, I think with this we should also discuss about what is the ideal approach towards a disease. Let's say when a person, in terms of, I'm talking in terms of a patient, let's say somebody who has experiencing pre-disease symptoms, right? And he has gone for his blood works, but nothing has come out. But
Hmm.
what happens is there is a mental relief in that those things, right? So what should be the ideal approach for a patient? How should he take action in terms of those things?
See, I'll tell you, there are pre-disease signals years ago, right? But unfortunately, the healthcare system has not developed such diagnostic investigations or point of care diagnostics which could identify or measure these signals. So, for instance, if someone has an early sign of chronic kidney disease, right? So probably it will never come up. So EGFR rate or the level of urea, ammonia in the blood comes only stage 3, stage 4, right? So essentially, there are uremic toxins released. There is a uh, mitochondria doing a lot of work producing free radicals, which is causing oxidative stress. We do not know because there is no single test to measure it, right? So essentially, we think, okay, there's nothing, everything is fine, right? So, uh, so this is the reason, and that's why we have technologies in place, right? Which is becoming more affordable, right? In terms of sequencing the microbiome, sequencing the genes expression, understanding what is happening inside the body at a molecular cellular level. So what I mean by molecular cellular level is what as interaction between various human genes expression and mitochondrial genes expression and microbial genes expression, interaction between the food and microbiome, food and oral microbiome, that microbiome, right? uh, it actually leads to secretion of certain compounds, molecules, right? And these molecules are something which impact your physiology, and over a period of time, this shows up in your blood work, but not immediately. So when it shows, it's already a cascade of inflammatory compounds, inflammatory molecules being secreted every minute, every second, every day, right? So essentially, we could measure, we as gene physicists could measure these molecules, what molecules are being secreted, from which microbe it came from, what genes it came from, what genes were expressed, what functions were coded by that gene, right? So we could tell with certainty, with precision, that this molecule, for instance, if you are consuming too much of high protein diet, there is ammonia production which could lead to hyperammonia, which could impact your kidney function or liver function or even brain function, right? So essentially, if you so there's a lot of these biochemical reactions which comes into picture. So we could measure. Now we have this whole body biochemistry solution which we are offering now. So we could look at what is happening in your mouth, what is happening in your gut. We are soon going to add the human gene expression part. So we will look how the inflammatory metabolites released by your microbiome is going to change your human gene expression, how it is going to impact the expression of certain inflammatory inflammasomes, inflammatory biomarkers, right? which is going to develop a disease. So essentially, we are uh, going to decode everything at a molecular and cellular level, right? Which is missed out, right? So essentially, to really prevent a disease from happening, you need to understand these signals well ahead of time rather than just waiting for symptoms to appear and trying to manage them, right? So this is what we are doing, and this is we need a lot of innovation in healthcare. Unfortunately, we have not seen. Yeah. Most of these are half-hearted approaches. We are tracking symptoms, tracking CGMs, or maybe building some sort of dietary choices based on some assumptions, without any clinical evidences, without any support from the existing scientific literature, right? And if we start doing it, people start questioning, oh, what is the scientific evidence behind it, right? So these all are way to take.
Sushant, I'd also like to add here what happens is when people are approaching some kind of a science, whether it is a device, medical device based or whatever it is, we have
Mhm.
seen that, science, when it comes to the science of biochemistry, decoding the molecular biology, it has always worked in phases. Let's say there was a phase when the antibiotics were discovered, right? But later a phase came because that time what they did, they saw that okay, this drug, this penicillin drug, it could kill microorganisms. But maybe they sort of forgot or failed to study that why microorganisms are there in our body and what kind of role it plays. Because if they would have studied it earlier, problems like the modern day problems that we have related to the lifestyle, they would have not really appeared at all. But somehow it sort of worked in isolation because that time their focus was to eradicate those infections. They had to kill those bacteria, whatever were causing
That's what we
infectious
call as
diseases.
reductionist biology approach, right? That treating
Yeah.
everything separately, right? So
Yes.
there is a
Yes.
symbiotic relationship between microbes and our body, right? Unfortunately, we have still seen some elements in the healthcare system who still believe it is microbiome is nothing. It is, or people think it is all just about existence of microorganism. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is what microbes are doing, right? So, so essentially, please get rid of all these so-called obnoxious claims of universal diabetes or reducing even your. There's so many weight loss fitness companies and coaches, right? Weight gain is not a disease. It is symptom of a disease. Obesity is an outcome of inflammation, right? So essentially, you need, if you are reducing weight by eating a lot of protein or by counting calories, right? Or by exercising more than what your body needs, right? You are just managing the existing situation of losing weight because you want to attend a marriage or you want to show your picture on your Instagram, right? So people who have, doesn't mean that people who have six packs uh, does not cannot have heart disease. Right? So so obesity is one of the reasons for heart disease, not the only reason, right? So people, it is a different difference between healthy and fitter. So some if some you know so-called bodybuilder or fitness experts comes and signs up for a program, we could even tell uh, what specific pathway is going to make you develop autoimmune disorder, right, or cardiovascular disease, right? Uh, that is every see this is not a solution for having eating less or having protein is not a solution for everything. Come out of this stupid thought, right? Your body is unique. Your body is you and me share this 5% of the biology, right? We are very, very unique. Think for a second, when in a family during a dinner, if everyone eats the same thing, right? Everyone reacts to the body differently, right? So essentially, it is not about you know a standard linear solution for your biology. Right?
Now, before we end this talk, I'd like to add some interesting insights too. What happens is there has been this lot of growth of this idea that you should eat what is harvested in your native in the place that you live, right? I think earlier we were also discussing that when we talk about biochemistry, so in the northern states you will see that a lot of cruciferous vegetables are produced, right, during
Wheat.
Some it
Wheat is
uh,
produced.
Yeah, wheat is there. That is a staple diet. Apart from that, I'm talking about the vegetables because vegetables have a lot of minerals and vitamins. So in the hilly states, you will see a lot of cauliflower, cabbages, and all. Because there is a iodine deficiency
Hmm.
because it is nature is giving these foods naturally to this particular area because natively these people have these kind of deficiencies, right? Now,
Hmm.
when we talk about if you go to the west, a lot of chilies are there. Chilies are produced, groundnuts are produced, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So because population at those places, they have this deficiency related to the problems related to antibiotic resistance, right? So natively, what the foods that are produced in a certain region actually also tells you the problem that certain population can have in terms of the region they are located, right? And I think nobody has done any sort of I'm not sure whether a lot of people have thought about it or done some research, but this is a very interesting area of research. If you see towards the south, rice is very much staple. Wheat you will
But
not find it.
I'll tell you the problem is that everyone's body is reacting negatively because of the stress, the environment, the packaged foods, right? The ultra processed foods is has destroyed your microbiome. So earlier you had a very diverse. So consider to our ancestors or our grandparents or great grandparents, they had a very diverse microbiome, right? And then they used to consume a lot of these things. So wheat, wheat is consumed by everyone in North India. We know that, and everyone in North India does not have an autoimmune disorder, right? So the point is, there are two aspects to it. Okay, wheat, how it is metabolized inside the body, right? So mostly people are consuming white wheat. It doesn't have fiber, so white wheat obviously spikes, right? So if you're consuming the farm produced wheat, which is really a whole wheat, which has a lot of fiber content, right? So in that case, your body metabolizes and produces nitrate, right? A lot of this comes from the fiber. But obviously now either we are consuming white wheat or we do not have the right sort of microbiome producing nitrate, or probably so don't understand me wrong. So wheat, it doesn't mean that people don't think wheat produces nitrate. So wheat, every food has different molecules. So whole wheat has certain fibrous contents which stimulates the production of nitrate, right? So essentially, if you're taking white wheat, which is in India called maida or refined flour, is spikes your sugar because it is the fiber is capped off from that, right? So essentially, third reason is the pesticides being spread right now to change the evolution of crop cycles. Right. So now there is so much demand because the agriculture area has shrunk. It has been converted into modern towns, right? So the production of the foods is less, and then in that case, what happens is there's a disruption of crop cycle, and then to produce more, you put a lot of pesticides and herbicides and a lot of these fungicides, right, which further disrupts your microbiome, right? So essentially, it's not only about. So you're right in terms of there is a certain pattern of microbiome and the area where you get these foods, right? So again, that's a fermented foods. This is really really funny because if you see in Hyderabad or in Andhra Pradesh, you have seen obesity on the rise. I visited a couple of months back. I have not seen even a healthy person there. It's mostly have the dead bod and tummies out, right? And 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 it's funny because there's a lot of dosa and fermented foods being, you know, consumed by their ancestors, by their grandparents, and they never had this. Now they have because fermented food is balances your microbiome. It makes your microbiome more diverse. It feeds your microbiome, right? But again, it is not happening because we are not eating those foods, or our microbiome is disrupted so much that we can't consume them. Right? So that is a problem. Yeah.
I think this was a really intuitive discussion. So thank you for your insights here. Would you like to add something before we close this discussion?
Yeah, consider this: our body is a tube, right? We have that system start from the mouth, right? So we have seen a lot of companies doing gut microbiome. Again, it's a just a one leg of a story, right? So here, what I want to tell you that we have this now a product where we decode your whole biochemistry. We look at all the microbiome, we look at gut microbiome. We're going to look at your human genes expression, your mitochondrial genes expression, right? So one solution, system biology platform which could actually solve your all health issues, right? So so do look out for search us on various social media platforms. We could actually help you, uh, you know, understand your biology at a molecular level. Digitize your human body or give a description of your body to understand what is going on inside your body, how you could even prevent diseases, right? So that's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Sushant.
Thank you. Bye bye.